Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around we had World War III. What was that one about?
Well, this was the finale of the Aliens of London, where the Slitheen were out to kill everybody. The one that was attacking Jackie got blown up into a whole room full of goo. And the Doctor managed to thwart their plans and essentially told Mickey that he didn't want him to come along. Or Mickey told Doctor that he didn't want to come along, and that Doctor covered for him and said that he wouldn't take him. And he certainly wasn't going to take Jackie. But at the end, even though Rose being gone for a year had caused a lot of problems, she decided to go back with him anyway.
Yeah, so trying to reassure Jackie that, well, to her, they'd only be gone for 10 seconds. And they left, and 10 seconds passed, and they clearly didn't show up again, so... not quite how the TARDIS works. It's just... I mean, the TARDIS could be that precise. It just won't be that precise. So... But yeah. But that was the end of our first two-parter of the series, of the new series. An interesting fact, the reason why they have two different names is because RTD thought it would be a good idea not to call them Part 1 and Part 2, because I guess, if you see, like, the listing in, TV guides, because those still existed in 2005, if you see, well, Aliens of London Part 2, well, I missed Part 1, I guess I won't watch this one either, so he did that. Now, granted, if you watch World War III without watching Aliens of London, suddenly, you're a little confused, but they do give a little bit of a recap, but I at least understand what he's going for, so... And pretty much, I think... There's at least one, maybe two-parters that are specifically labeled Part 1 and Part 2 in all of modern Doctor Who. So, I don't know what changed for those now that I think about it, but yeah, so that's just an interesting little factoid.
By the way, I did look it up, and the MP from Flydale apparently is made up.
Yeah, so...
although it sounds perfectly logical.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... Like, I mean, it's probably also easy to make up, like, a town in America as well, but, like, I feel like you could say some of the weirdest things and be like, yeah, that sounds like a British town. Like, I don't know. There's a video where, like, these two guys are going... they went to, like, Stonehenge, and then they went and... They stayed inside of a prison. Like, there was a prison that, like, ran through, I want to say until, like, the 80s, maybe even through the early 2000s. And after it stopped being a prison, the people who owned it just cleaned it up and offered it basically as a hotel. So you can go stay in the cells. And it, specifically, the people that were making the video in their room, the people that ran the place said, it's like, oh yeah, and one of your cells, unfortunately, someone hanged themselves. Is anyone in B4? And they were like, yes, that's us. And when they showed off the cells, like, yep, right there, person unfortunately hanged himself. So, but anyway, after that, they finally at 8 o'clock in the morning got out of that prison, and they were happy for that because they barely had anything to sleep on. And they were just kind of going around to different English towns just to get some breakfast. And one of them was Australian, so he was just amused by the different weird names. Like, I swear, and I could be just completely misremembering this, but I could have sworn there's just a town called Fart. And I'm probably making that up, but it was something like that, something just goofy. So all of that to say, it's pretty easy to make up a British town name, I imagine.
North of where we lived in East Anglia, we lived actually in the town of Mildenhall for a while before we moved to base housing on RAF Lakenheath. The town called Bury St. Edmunds, like Bury St. Edmunds. There's High Wycombe, and of course the Welsh names, which are, impossible to pronounce.
Yeah, and I know there was one of the Grand Tour specials, they were going through Scotland, but they started in the most northern town in all of England, which was called, like, Berwick-upon-Tweed. And it's just like, you're not beating the allegations of being the most stereotypical British we've ever seen in our lives with a name called Berwick-upon-Tweed. So,
and of course, Stratford-upon-Avon is where the Shakespeares lived.
When your town has 3 words in its name, that's a little too much. Now, I say that knowing full well that we have a city called New York City, but still. So,
New York City.
Anywho, in case you are unaware, we are rewatching today's episode. We watched this 3, maybe 4 years ago at this point. It was a while. It was before we really started going through just all the classic episodes in order. And this was his introduction to the Ninth Doctor. It wasn't my introduction. My introduction was watching modern Doctor Who, as you all know. Hopefully you know that. So we are rewatching today's episode. And this is probably one of the greatest Doctor Who episodes of all time.
Yes.
And
has one of the top 5 greatest lines when the Dalek talks to the Doctor there at the end.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting because now this is my 3rd time watching this on camera, which is weird. And so now I have to think, am I going to be able to say anything insightful at all? Because I watched this episode once, then I watched it again with you, now I'm watching it again for the 3rd time on camera, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be that interesting today, but I mean, either way, we'll watch it, we'll have a good time, and at the end we will discuss it as always. So, you got anything else?
Well, we started rehearsals for Charlie's Aunt, finished blocking this week, got the weekend off, and then we start working rehearsals on Monday. So, I'm very tired.
And meanwhile, I've been playing Spider-Man on my Steam Deck. So I mean, it's fun. It's kind of funny because I hate doing everything in that game except being Spider-Man. And I know that being Spider-Man is a large chunk of that game, and I remember when it came out it was on PlayStation 4, I think. There were people that were like, wow, I don't really want to do this little side mission where you play as Mary Jane and you're like sneaking around this place. And it's like, honestly, I get that too, because they made swinging through New York so much fun in this game that it's like, I don't really want to do anything else. I just want to swing around and do nothing.
And I may have told you this, and I can't remember what game it is, but one of the video games where Spider-Man is fighting Dr. Octopus. The voice actor, who also did motion capture for it, who played Dr. Octopus, is my old friend William Salyers, who I've done a couple of shows here in Oklahoma City. I directed him, was on stage with him. Now he's out in Los Angeles. He also voiced Rigby for all 7 or 8 seasons of the normal show. What is it called?
Regular show. Yeah.
I never watched it. So.
I didn't either. So,
but yeah, he's a very famous voice actor.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. See, I would say like, well, we'll put it on screen which Spider-Man game that was, but that requires me to remember to put something on screen before the reaction starts. And I am just so frankly terrible about editing intros that it's just like, I don't know. We had like a bit at the beginning of last episode where I was like talking about something and I said, oh, it's hashtag not an ad. And I was like, I'm probably not going to remember to put it up. Sure enough, I did not remember to put it up. So, anyhow, with all of that said, we should probably just get straight into this episode of Doctor Who again, in my case.
Where are we?
Earth, Utah, North America. About half a mile underground.
In other words, hell.
When?
We've been there.
2012.
God, that's so close. I should be 26.
Wow, the future.
Chunks of meteorite, moon dust. That's the mileometer from the Roswell spaceship.
That's a bit of Slovene. That's a Slovene's arm. It's been stuffed.
Oh no.
Oh, look at you.
Oh no, the Cybermen.
One of the bullet hole gun things coming out of his head.
What is it?
An old friend of mine. Well, enemy.
Someone's collecting aliens. That makes you Exhibit A.
thanks for telling them.
Attention all personnel. Bad Wolf 1 descending.
Bad Wolf again.
1 descending.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the President conveys personal best wishes.
The President is 10 points down. I want him replaced.
I don't think that's very wise, sir.
Thank you so much for your opinion. You're fired. Get rid of him. Wipe his memory. Put him on the road someplace. Memphis, Minneapolis. Somewhere beginning with M. So, the next president, what do you think? Republican or Democrat?
Democrat, sir.
For what reason?
They're just so funny, sir.
What is your name?
Was it dangerous? No, just looks silly.
Ocarina of
Just
Time.
need to be delicate. So you're just about an expert in everything except the things in your museum. Anything you don't understand, you lock up.
And you claim greater knowledge?
I don't need to make claims. I know how good I am.
And yet I captured you. Right next to the cage. What were you doing down there?
You tell me.
The cage contains my one living specimen.
And what's that?
Like you don't know.
Show me.
You want to see it?
Blimey, you can smell the testosterone.
Got on.
The last guy that touched it burst into flames.
I won't touch it then.
Exterminate! Exterminate! Exterminate!
Sir, it's gonna kill him.
It's talking.
You are an enemy of the Daleks! You must be destroyed!
Well, it's such a great reveal, even if you don't know what it is. Just this weird looking thing is chained.
I demand orders!
They're never gonna come. Your race is dead. You all burn, all of you. 10 million ships on fire. The entire Dalek race wiped out in 1 second.
You lie!
I watched it happen. I made it happen.
You destroyed us!
I had no choice.
And what of the Time Lords?
Dead. They burned with you.
We are the same.
We're not the same. I'm not. No, wait. Maybe we are.
Help me!
I saved your life now. Talk to me. God damn it, talk to me. You've got to destroy it.
The last in the universe.
Now I know your name. Dalek. Speak to me, Dalek.
It's so weird.
I am Henry
Yeah.
Van Staten. Now recognize me.
You are no one.
The thing is, it's all true. Everything the United Nations tries to keep quiet. Spacecraft, aliens, visitors to Earth. They really exist.
That's amazing.
I know it sounds incredible, but I honestly believe the whole universe is just teeming with life.
I'm gobsmacked, yeah.
When I was 8, I logged onto the US defense system. Nearly caused World War III.
What, and that's funny, is it?
Well, you should have been there, just to see them running about. Fantastic.
You sound like the Doctor.
Are you and him
No, we're just friends.
good?
Yes, good.
Just is.
Now I know they're probably setting that up as a possible companion. You know what I just thought? The last Dalek on Earth in the universe
Yeah.
as a companion.
Eh.
It's being tortured. Where's the Doctor?
I don't know.
Turn me down there now.
The metal's just battle armor. The real Dalek creature's inside.
What does it look like?
A nightmare. It's a mutation. The Dalek race was genetically engineered.
You know
Every single
Nickelodeon
emotion
slime?
removed
It's like
except
that.
hate.
It fell to Earth on the Ascension Islands, burned in its crater for 3 days before anybody could get near it, and all that time it was screaming. It must have gone insane.
Must have fallen through time, the only survivor.
It was
Talked
sane.
about a war?
The only one of your kind in existence.
You didn't think that one through, did you?
So that's your secret. You don't just collect this stuff, you scavenge it.
This technology has been falling to Earth for centuries. All it took was the right mind to use it properly.
Listen to me. That thing downstairs is gonna kill every last one of us.
Nothing can escape the cage.
Yeah, this is the plot of the second Pokemon movie.
The alien tech thing is also the plot of some of the Avengers movies and the Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Vulture tries to get it.
My race is dead. I shall die alone.
You do almost feel bad.
Rose, no!
Oh no, they pulled a pro gamer move.
What you gonna do? Sucker me to death?
Yes! I like that they show off more of what the suction can do.
Yeah.
Don't shoot it, I want it unharmed! Rose, get out of there!
This is the nice thing about being in America, they shoot.
Sir, the entire west coast has gone down.
It's not just energy. That Dalek just absorbed the entire internet.
Oh no.
Knows everything.
No, not the internet. We're there right now. Huh. So here's a funny detail. When he was so injured, he couldn't move his head around completely. Now he can. I like that.
Ah, yes, the old levitating Dalek.
Elevate.
Initiating protocol theyflynow.exe.
Don't look back, just run!
Go for the eye. Has nobody played The Legend of Zelda?
Aim for the dome, the head, the eyepiece. That's the weak spot.
Thank you, Doctor, but I think I know how to fight one singleton robot.
Ah, hubris.
Like 100 people have died, man.
I wonder what the body count in this episode is.
I'm not sure.
Don't you see, it's all gone. Everything you were, everything you stood for.
Then what should I do?
All right then. If you want orders, follow this one. Kill yourself.
The Daleks must survive!
The Daleks have failed! Why don't you finish the job and make the Daleks extinct? Rid the universe of your filth! Why don't you just die?
You would make a good Dalek.
Yikes.
Seal the vaults.
Now he's really pissed.
Now for God's sake, run!
Oh, God. There's so many stairs. I'll just stay down. He'll just kill me. It'll be fine.
I killed her. I'm sorry. I said I'd protect her. She was only here because of me, and you're sorry. I could have killed that Dalek in itself. But you stopped me.
It was the prize of my collection.
Your collection? Well, was it worth it?
What do we do now? You bleeding heart? What the hell do we do?
Kill it when it gets here.
All the guns are useless, and the alien weapons are in the vault.
Only the catalogue ones.
Meh.
Broken.
No.
Broken.
No.
Air dryer.
Meh.
Lock and load.
No, that's a BFG.
Yes, the old showdown at high noon. Expect the theme from Fistful of Dollars. It's the squid.
Yeah.
What's it doing?
It's
Getting
a
a tan.
That's all it wants. The hell are you changing into?
I couldn't. I wasn't. Oh, Rose. They're all dead.
This is not life. This is sickness. I shall not be like you. Order my destruction. Obey! Obey! Obey!
Do it.
What the hell are you doing?
200 personnel dead, and all because of you, sir.
I guess that's the body count.
Take him away, wipe his men, and by tonight, Henry Van Staden will be a homeless, brainless junkie living on the streets of San Diego, Seattle, Sacramento.
Something with that.
Someplace beginning with S.
Yeah.
What are you doing standing inside a box? Rose?
I don't remember him getting in when we saw it the first time.
Alrighty. Oh, okay.
Now, RTD didn't write that one, did he?
No.
I can't remember. I saw the name at the beginning. But whoever wrote that, that is, again, that's one of the best scripts that we have ever seen.
Yeah. It was written by, I believe, Robert Shearman, who based this off of a book that he wrote. I can't remember. I think it might have been a book about the Sixth Doctor, where he was going through essentially the same story, and they readapted it for the Ninth Doctor. So, a funny fact about this episode, I'm pretty sure I didn't say this last time. So this is the one little bit of insightful information that I do have this time around, is originally they started doing this, and it was obviously going to be the Daleks, and RTD thought, of course we can use the Daleks. It's Doctor Who. It's the BBC. Of course we can. And they suddenly panicked when they realized, oh, the BBC doesn't have the rights to the Daleks. The Terry Nation estate does, and they didn't ask accidentally. So there is a version of this script that's almost exactly the same without the Dalek, and instead a different alien. It was like a sphere, basically, called the Toclafane, and they were really close to having to film that before. Luckily, the Terry Nation estate did consent to them using the Dalek, and they were able to go from there. And I think, technically, I don't know if this is when they worked out the deal, but I believe in order to keep having the rights to use the Daleks moving forward, they had to agree to put the Daleks in, like, at least once every season going forward. Now, I know that might sound a bit odd since we just watched The Last of the Daleks Destroyed.
I was going to say, it's The Last of the Daleks.
But we've seen that before.
Yeah.
I figured you've already figured out that the Daleks are going to come back someday. So,
well, again, since we have no real details about the Time War, we assumed that the Daleks throughout time were all destroyed, but, if there was a Dalek or a group of Daleks, like in, what was it, E-Space, something that was, beyond our specific universe, then, that's obviously a way to bring them back.
Yeah, so... But that's... Currently, right now, all the Daleks are dead. All the Time Lords, with the exception of the Doctor, are gone. Every single last one of them. Because you brought up E-Space, I guess I don't know if that actually counts Romana or not, if Romana is dead. But, I was going to say it counts the Master, but the last time we saw the Master, he died again in the movie, so the Master always dies, so... but that's currently our standing, is that essentially the Time War is over, and the Doctor has had his last confrontation with it, basically. So, we always say, we always said throughout classic Doctor Who, is how good of an actor do you have to be to act off of these things? And I would say, not only does Christopher Eccleston and everyone who interacts with the Dalek in this episode, they nail acting off of it. I will say, whoever was inside that Dalek really knew what they were doing. I believe a guy named Nicholas Briggs he voices the Dalek, and I think he's been voicing the Daleks for a while, like in the audios and stuff, and he pretty much voices them from here on out.
Yeah.
So
now, one perplexing question. Van Satin says the last guy who touched it was incinerated.
Yes.
So how did Rose touch it without being incinerated?
I would assume that when the guy touched it, the Dalek scanned his DNA, but realized he couldn't use it. Because
she was a time traveler.
Yeah, he specifically says that Rose is a time traveler. Yeah. So it's a thing of, like, anyone could, but if you're not like Rose, then you were rejected, basically. So, but I mean, just a lot of characterization for a Dalek.
Yeah.
And we don't really see that often. I mean, the Daleks, I would almost say the Daleks kind of have the same thing that the Borg have in Star Trek, where, like, you have the Borg, and that's great. They're, really great in Star Trek The Next Generation. But at a point, the writers started to realize, how do you interact with the Borg if they're all drones? So, they had the whole thing of, Locutus, and then eventually, which led into the movies and into Voyager, you have the Borg Queen, which is a personality you can work off of. And I feel like with the Daleks, it did kind of work that way with Davros, where, like, I don't think, like, at first I don't think that's what the purpose of Davros was in Genesis of the Daleks. It was more just a, we're showing the history of the Daleks, so we're showing the creator, obviously. But the fact that they brought him back, like, 3, nearly 4 times, like, that kind of felt like we don't really know what else to do with the Daleks, let's bring back Davros. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So,
yeah.
But here, just, like, all that characterization that this Dalek literally just absorbs from Rose, basically, and it changes him. So,
and again, fascinating thought, because this particular Dalek absorbed some of the humanity of Rose. If the Doctor said, I've got to find something to do with you, I know he ultimately decides to kill himself, the Dalek does. But imagine taking that particular Dalek on, even if it's only for 2 or 3 episodes, as a companion.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's not K9, what was the other one? The Chameleon.
Yeah. So, it could have been interesting. I don't know, because it kind of goes into just, what happened with this Dalek, because it's like, you could have gone into something of like, well, it wants freedom. Like, there probably is, some abandoned planet that this Dalek could, set up shop. It could be like the end of Infinity War when Thanos, like, is all injured, but he goes to this, like, nice cabin on this planet, like, and he sits down having accomplished his work. That'd be weird.
Cooking a couple of burgers.
Yeah, it's like
having a beer.
it would have been weird. What does a Dalek house look like? We don't really know, but I imagine there would be something, lingering in the back of the Doctor's mind. Like, even though he sees all the change, he cannot fully trust a Dalek will just, fade into obscurity. And I would imagine even the Dalek doesn't trust himself. And now that he's getting all these human emotions, he sees all the inherent darkness of the Daleks. He's like, I can't live with this. I want to still be a Dalek, but I hate being a Dalek, but I hate being part human too. And so it just does not compute with him, basically.
But that gives you the possibility, the more human he becomes, that he begins to understand that humans continue, Now, obviously he's the only one, but he could clone himself and continue to clone until he had literally rebuilt a race of Daleks, who then, talk about a twist, who set out to, like Thanos, they decide that they're going to make the universe a better place by eliminating all the imperfects, not out of a sense of, we are superior, but as a sense of, like Thanos, I'm trying to alleviate all the suffering in the universe. My mission is actually a noble one, so I'm here to exterminate all of you because you are subpar. You're not up to the standards that the Daleks think the universe should have.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing, because I also thought about, if, the Doctor, if he had accidentally taken from the Doctor and he'd become more Time Lord, that could have honestly been a problem. We saw the Time Lords throughout all of Classic Who. They kind of suck, they're all pretty bad, hence why the Doctor leaves Gallifrey and the Time Lords behind. So, but then I just thought, if this had continued, maybe he just, leaves at some point, it would be interesting to see sort of, I guess, an inner conflict between the humanity that he has learned, and he sees the dark ways of the Daleks, but then what if he does get into that other part of humanity, our inherent darkness, the kind you can see if you go to the trending page of Twitter and everything. He absorbed the entirety of the internet in 2012. Now, there are worse years to take from, but still. But even still, it is one of those things, you could have maybe played with that in another episode of, he is absorbing all this from humanity, but, he absorbs the good with the bad. I guess at that point it could be kind of like Ultron with the Avengers, where it's he literally looked at all of the internet and decided, okay, I'm not doing this, and was like, well, I'll get rid of all of them, and that'll be that. So
there's also shades of Wrath of Khan in there, where you're abandoned for 15 years and somebody forgets what you've done, and you've not only survived, but you have become stronger and bent on revenge.
Yeah, and I guess too, with what he absorbed, I guess it is more specific to Rose. The fact that she is a good kid, only slightly violent when wanting to blow up the Slitheen, but that's beside the point, But it's it's not that he took every, with Ultron, it's you can see within Ultron the sort of personality of Tony Stark, maybe a little bit of Banner, but a lot of Tony Stark. But he didn't take from Van Statten, At that point, he may have been even worse than just a basic Dalek, even.
Yeah.
So the fact that he did take that from Rose, he may not have had that sort of human darkness within him.
Production question. If Van Statten and Goddard and a lot of the soldiers were actually British actors, their accents were very good, right?
Yeah.
Because, just like British people can tell when Americans are trying to do a British accent, we're not the best at it. Even people who've studied it are not the best at it. But those, I had a hard time thinking, I was trying to detect particular traces of British in those American accents, and I really didn't see any.
I don't know about most of them. I know we've seen the actor that plays Van Staten in other stuff. I think he was like in The Mummy and stuff, and I think he was American there. So I think he's American. I don't know about the rest of them, but yeah, and it was mostly Van Staten and Goddard that got most of the lines. Most of the soldiers didn't really say too much, so if they can fake it through just a line or two, that'd be fine.
One that gave it. Somebody said it noticed that almost everybody pronounced her name Goddard, but didn't she even say Goddard?
Maybe
somebody did. So I mean that was the one that I went, wait a minute, it's Goddard.
Yeah. So, and it's an interesting thing with Van Staten that he's very stereotypical, evil bad guy who he has this great collection of alien stuff. He's just like the most stereotypical rich, kind of guy. It's interesting that they point out, it's 2012 and he says, well, I don't like our current president. Let's replace him with someone else. I do like the idea that because he was stopped and mind wiped, that didn't go into place, thus the president did not change because Obama still got reelected in 2012 anyway. Yeah. So that was just kind of a funny idea that I had. But obviously something they would not have known about. This is 2005, 2004 when they made it, so they didn't know any of that. But the whole thing of it kind of works like the whole thing of he gets all these alien devices and stuff, and that's how he creates these different things. This one thing, he got the cure for the common cold. Broadband internet he got from the Roswell spaceship and stuff, and it's like, okay, it is. I don't know. It's interesting that just in this episode, and it's a big episode, but in this episode they just established, this guy has basically just kind of run the world for 50 years or so, or 30 years or however long it's been. So, and he just had that kind of power. So, I don't know.
I wonder if he was based on any specific person, because he's certainly not a Bill Gates. He's kind of a Steve Jobs. But nowadays he's more like an Elon Musk.
Yeah, except he's actually smart, because he was able to he actually when he had to do the hacking and stuff like that. So he actually knows what he's doing. So unlike Elon Musk and the Cybertruck, we saw one of those in the wild when we were in Portland. Those are ugly. I just don't get it. Just get a truck, Yeah. It was smaller than most American pickup trucks you see nowadays, so that is at least one credit, but still, it's if it's a choice between a smaller truck or one that looks better, I'd rather take the one that looks better at least. So, besides, it's bigger, it looks better, it's probably cheaper than a Cybertruck anyway. Anywho, another thing, watching season 1 again, I definitely see the smaller sets. I'd kind of forgotten about these. And honestly, a lot of these sets look like they aren't too far off from late classic era Who. And with this one, I like that it's, we have a bunch of extras. Sure, we have a bunch of people in military outfits and stuff like that. But there is only one monster. And it is the slowest chase in the world. But it is a very intimidating chase. They really made the Daleks scary again, But it is just one Dalek. And just going through, just seeing every set, it's these are some of the most simple sets. They probably just found one, maybe two warehouses in Cardiff and filmed all of that there. But it's just the most simple thing. But it was very, very effective.
Yes.
So...
yeah, like I said, the stairwells and the big open, like you said, warehouse place where all the soldiers were electrocuted. But yeah, the rest of that did seem like it was just good old fashioned interior sets.
Yeah, so because you have Van Staten's office, you have the vault where they kept the Dalek. All of that is just nice, simple.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if the Hall of Artifacts was in some way partially CGI'd. Where the hall that they were in was somewhat functional, but then they simply created the other, because again it was very static. There were two hallways, one beside each other, and it seems to me that the one on the left, our viewing left, probably could have been CGI'd or matte painted or something like that.
Yeah, possibly, because it was only like the one wide shot. Like they never did any like sweeping shots or anything, so it could be. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I know, like, during some of the big... It's kind of the problem is that during the big scenes, namely with the Doctor, we pretty much didn't say anything. But what do you say in the middle of that? Because it's like, here's Christopher Eccleston acting his heart out against a giant pepper pot, and it's great. It's effective, but it's like, I don't know, it is a little hard to... well, basically just... My first thing is, I always try to make these videos entertaining. I always try to, namely that just means telling dumb jokes at a moment's notice. And occasionally I'll get a comment of someone being like, "Ah, man, you talk too much through this," and I'm like, well, "What's the point?" But there are moments like that where it's like, I don't even know what to say here.
Now that brings up another production point. When he's acting opposite the Dalek, was somebody just off camera reading the Dalek's lines, or was Nicholas Briggs actually on there, speaking through a microphone so that he could react to that voice? Because if it was just somebody off camera reading the lines, he was doing a very good job.
It might have been that Nicholas Briggs was on mic, because I remember they showed something like that when they did an Adventure in Space and Time, and I don't know how accurate that was to how they did it in the 60s, but I think it was sort of like that, where you had some guy with a script on a microphone and you would do that, because also they have to, I would imagine they would, because with the Daleks' lights flashing every time with every syllable basically, so you have to match that up perfectly. Otherwise, they would have someone just saying the dialogue, getting the light flashes, and then Nicholas Briggs would have to sync up how he would perform it to those light flashes, which is possible. It's entirely possible to do that, but
that's as a director, for example, if somebody has to read something on stage, I always make sure the stage manager prints it out and puts it into, whether it's a newspaper or a book or something, because you cannot rely on an actor's memory. No matter how good the actor is, at some point they're going to forget what they're supposed to do. We did a production in March on Golden Pond. It's a rewritten section, and at the beginning of the play, Norman Thayer has to call the operator. This is, of course, it's set in the 80s. And they made the decision to tape the operator's responses so that it could be played back and the audience could hear it. And I mentioned to the director at the time, I said, I think you should do that live. And she said, well, the person who's doing the voice can't be at every performance, so we were going to tape it. And of course, it gets to the point where during performances, Norman would not say his line the way he had been saying it, and there would be this huge pause before the operator came back, supposedly replying to what he had just said, but there's like a 10-second gap in there. So always do it live. All right?
Yeah.
Bill O'Reilly, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. It was around that time anyway, so it was 2005. But yeah, in terms of the other stuff, I guess the only other thing is, we talk about how Rose sort of changes the Dalek, but just that first scene too, because she sees that they're torturing this Dalek. She doesn't know what this Dalek is. She's a new viewer, and so she doesn't understand all this. So when she goes down there, and obviously the Dalek, I feel like it's sort of half and half of the Dalek is actually in pain. He is actually kind of dying, but he may also slightly be tricking Rose just to see, like he can probably see like something's different about this girl. Maybe I can use this. But just seeing her interact with it and just being, what's wrong? I've got this friend called the Doctor. He should be able to help. I can go get him. And until eventually just basically lulling her into this security until she puts her hand on it. But it's just interesting seeing that sympathy that she has for a Dalek,
Sounds like a new Rolling Stone album, Sympathy for the Dalek.
It does, yeah. So, yeah.
That is an obscure 1960s reference for those of you who are that old.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Again, top 5 greatest episodes in all of Doctor Who.
Yeah, that I've seen.
Yeah.
He may know some better ones.
There's really only one other episode, and we already watched it. It's The Girl in the Fireplace. That's the only other one I put as sort of my favorite. I would say, though, it's my favorite, but I don't know if I would put it as, like, objectively the best. And I think I would still probably put it really high, but this one, Genesis of the Daleks, the War Games are all in the top 5. If I had to pick 2 more, is there anything else from classic Doctor Who? I feel like there is, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But definitely high up there for this one. So, that's pretty much that. You got anything else?
What's coming up next?
Next, we'll shift over to Disc 2. So, we don't have it. But I believe the next episode is called The Long Game. So, and we're just about, 6 episodes of 13. We're around the halfway point of the season. So, it's really going by. Hopefully not too fast, because it's a short era, but it's just really good. So,
and he's the only actor who only got 1 season.
Yes. Yeah, so far, because
Baker only had 2.
Yeah, Colin Baker only had 2. So technically, still not the shortest tenure because of Paul McGann. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of just the show, like he only got 1 season, and pretty much everyone from here on out will have, long stretches of the modern Doctors. So, but yeah, that is basically it. And with all of that being said, we're Alex and Ed from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist for all of our classic Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.